This is one of those stories you'll tell around a campfire at night so that other people can get scared. You won't believe what this family went through. In the heart of Africa, where the sun beats down on the dusty plains and the shadows of ancient trees dance ominously in the evening breeze, there lived a family shrouded in mystery. They were known as the Nkosi family, and their story was a chilling tale whispered from generation to generation. Generations ago, the family had built their home on the edge of a village, isolated and secluded in a small hut made of mud and thatch. But it wasn't just a physical distance that set them apart. There was something about the Nkosi family that made the villagers uncomfortable. The family's patriarch, an old man with eyes that seemed to hold ancient secrets, was rumored to have dealings with the spirits of the night. His wife, a woman with a haunting gaze and a voice like rustling leaves, was said to be a seer, able to peer into the future and speak with the dead. Their daughter, a striking beauty with skin, the color of polished mahogany, and an air of melancholy about her, was believed to be cursed, doomed to a life of sorrow and solitude. The villagers, superstitious and fearful, kept their distance from the Nkosi family, believing that any association with them would bring bad luck. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. One day, a terrible illness swept through the village, leaving death and despair in its wake. As the sick piled up and the air grew heavy with the stench of decay, the villagers turned to the Nkosi family for help. They came to the old woman, the one believed to speak with the dead, and begged her to intervene. She listened patiently, her face impassive, and then told them that the only way to stop the plague was to find the source of the evil spirit causing it. That's when they turned to the Nkosi's daughter, the supposed curse of the family. With trembling hands and tearful eyes, she led them to a nearby forest, deep and dark, where the trees seemed to twist and gnarl in pain. There, under the canopy of thick leaves, she showed them a small clearing, and in the center of that clearing stood a lone tree, its branches bare and skeletal against the gray sky. It was an acacia, a tree sacred to the villagers, but also one that held a terrible reputation. The villagers believed that the spirits of the dead often lingered around acacia trees, unable to move on because of some unresolved attachment to the world of the living. But why? They wondered. Did the curse of the Nkosi family lead them here? What was the connection between the tree and their suffering? With a heavy heart and newfound determination, the villagers decided to destroy the tree. They brought their sharpest tools and hacked at the trunk, but no matter how much they cut, the tree wouldn't fall. It seemed as if an invisible force was protecting it, urging it to withstand the attacks. The more they hacked, the angrier the tree seemed to become, its branches thrashing wildly as if trying to lash out at its attacker. As the struggle continued, the villagers began to panic. They could feel the presence of the forest, the spirits, the trees, growing stronger and more malevolent by the moment. It was as if the very essence of the woods was becoming agitated, responding to the desecration of their sacred space. Fear lent speed to their movements, and soon they were running through the forest, each man intent on escaping the wrath of the spirit. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs ached, desperate to put as much distance between themselves and the haunted tree. They never looked back, not even once, convinced that the spirits of the night were hot on their trail, ready to claim them as their own. But the terror didn't end there. In the days that followed, the villagers started dying one by one. Their bodies found in the forest, drained of life and bearing strange markings. Panic turned to chaos. Accusations flew and fear became a constant companion. The villagers, torn apart by grief and suspicion, forgot all about the plague. They were too busy burying their dead and mourning their losses. Meanwhile, the Nkosi family remained untouched by the tragedy. The old woman, the seer, watched from afar, her expression unreadable. Some say she was amused by the unfolding drama, while others whispered that she was deeply saddened by the state of her people. But whatever her true feelings, she did nothing to intervene. She let the chaos grow, like a storm gathering strength on the horizon. One day, the Nkosi's daughter couldn't bear the sight of her people suffering anymore. Despite the warnings of her parents, she ventured into the village. She wanted to see for herself the damage done and perhaps find a way to help. What she saw almost broke her heart. Homes were abandoned, fields lay untended, and the streets were littered with the corpses of animals and the dead. It was as if a plague of locusts had descended upon the land, devouring everything in sight. Determined to help, she went to the forest. She walked slowly, her head held high, her eyes fixed on the path ahead. She knew that the spirits of the forest were powerful, but she was not afraid. She had the courage of her ancestors flowing through her veins, the courage to face the unknown and emerge victorious. When she reached the clearing, she stopped. The tree was still there, its branches bare and but now she saw something she hadn't noticed before. At the base of the tree, hidden amongst the tangled roots, was a small patch of green. It was a single leaf, a lone survivor amidst the desolation. The leaf was a symbol of hope, a reminder that life, like the spirit of the forest, was resilient and tenacious. With renewed determination, she sat at the foot of the tree and waited. She waited for the spirits of the forest to reveal themselves to her, to tell her why they were tormenting her people. As the hours passed, the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Still, she waited, her gaze unwavering, her resolve unshaken. Finally, as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, she heard a sound. It was a whisper, soft and lilting, like the rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. Then the spirits revealed themselves, not as fearsome creatures of darkness, but as the souls of the forest itself. They spoke to her of their pain, their anger, and their sorrow. They told her that they were not malevolent spirits, but guardians of the forest, protectors of its balance and harmony. They explained that the acacia tree was not just a tree, but a sacred altar where they communed with the spirits of their ancestors. It was a place of power and reverence, not to be disturbed but the villagers, driven by fear and desperation, had not understood. They had attacked the tree, defiled the altar, and in doing so, angered the spirits of the forest. The spirits told her that the only way to appease them was to make a sacrifice, an offering of something precious to restore the balance that had been broken. They did not ask for gold or jewels, for they had no use for such earthly treasures. What they wanted was something far more valuable, something that symbolized the connection between the living and the dead, the link to their ancestors. She returned to the village, her heart heavy with the task before her. She knew what she had to do, but the thought of it almost crushed her. She went to her parents, the old man and the seer, and told them what she had learned. They had known this might happen, and they had prepared. For such an outcome, they gave her a necklace, an heirloom passed down through generations, a tangible link to their ancestor. With trembling hands, she took the necklace and went back to the forest. When the spirits saw the offering, they were appeased. They accepted the sacrifice and promised to lift the curse from the village. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, she placed the necklace at the base of the tree and the spirits took it. They merged with the tree, becoming one with the forest, and the curse was lifted. As if awakened from a nightmare, the villagers came out of their homes. They were confused and scared, but unharmed. Slowly, hesitantly, they returned to their daily lives. The village began to heal, but it was forever changed by the events of the plague. The villagers no longer feared the Nkosi family. Instead, they respected and honored them. And the Nkosi family, once shunned and misunderstood, became the heart and soul of the village, guiding and protecting their people whenever they needed it most. And that's the story that keeps people up at night, a tale that reminds us that sometimes our greatest fears are born from our own ignorance, and that true courage lies not in the absence of fear, but in the strength to overcome it.